warm welcome to Timothy, everyone. Take it over, Timothy.
Thank you. And today's talk is enhancing Apache NiFi, the 2 series with Python processors. So I'll show you how you can enhance the streaming system Apache NiFi, and I'll show you an example Python processor running in a hosted environment, but you can also run it in your own environments, whether that's Docker, in bare metal system or in Kubernetes. And I'm going to use the Snowflake OpenFlow environment for that, but you could use lots of different ones. Here's my information. If you're looking for more information on this topic, data, Snowflake, AI, NiFi, different things around there. I put out a weekly newsletter. You can watch that if you're interested in any kind of data, AI, or cat pictures. Those are all in there. But let's talk a little bit about Apache NiFi first to give you a background of why we want to might enhance this. Obviously, you know the value of Python, how great it is for working with data and AI and ML and so many different things. And there's so many rich libraries. So to be able to bring this functionality to a distributed, enhanced system like NiFi is really powerful. It makes it very easy to take Python code that you just write once, be able to scale this out and use it across different parts of an enterprise. NiFi is a visual tool, and we'll show you that. We won't go too much in here, and you'll get these slides in the example code. But NiFi lets you drag and drop, run things interactively. Lots of interesting features. It's been around for a while. Cool stuff. Very often works with something like Kafka or Pulsar to get fast data moving. Often we will grab it from a source, which could be hundreds of different kinds of sources. Some of them pretty straightforward, like a sensor or a table. Other of them kind of obscure. Get them in, and then this is where the Python piece really shines. So you could do things like convert data, enrich it, transform it, or add your own kind of AI enhancements. Some of my examples are around capturing images from a camera, extracting things using various ML and AI libraries, things like different libraries on Hugging Face, taking an address, converting it to latitude and longitude. Lots of fun things you could do there. NiFi stores data underneath the covers in a number of repositories. This lets you do things like have a lineage and the ability to see things and go back to see if what happened at a certain step. This tracing ability and auditing can be pushed to NiFi, so you could process this in real time. Kind of cool. Lets you give a lot of options on how you handle errors, and we'll show you how you could do these things real time. So this is a really great way to take, some bit of Python functionality you have. Maybe it's a really cool library, maybe it's a really cool bit of transformation or enrichment or processing you have, and add that to something that can be used to enhance real time data streams within big organization or just for yourself, anywhere from cybersecurity to data loading. It's a great way without having to think, well, do I deploy this to Spark or Ray? Certainly, those are cool ways to do things, or PyFlink, or in Snowpark. There's so many options, but this is just one more. If you've written some really cool tool, be able to share that to your friends who are running things in NiFi and may not be writing any, code. So to have that Python integrated, the newest version of NiFi 2.6, 2.7's probably going to be out by the end of this talk. They move pretty quick here. This is a huge one because of that ability to have a secure, stable way of having that Python part of your pipeline without having to do anything kind of magic. And we'll show you how that works. Uh, Everything is parameterized. So you create a flow, add whatever Python processors you might have to that flow or pipeline, extract anything that is either sensitive or is going to change into parameters. So those can live separately. So you can version control your code, have your parameters applied on the fly, either through manually setting that through the UI or through scripting or through the command line interface or through an enterprise tool like OpenFlow. Makes it very powerful to be able to easily move, your code between servers, between services, do version control, A/B testing, all that kind of fun stuff we like to do. Supports the latest Java. Obviously, people here don't care about Java, but it's nice to have a new one there. Be able to work with anything in the cloud. We mentioned that lineage, using tables as configuration is helpful. Lots of features there, but we'll show you that where it makes sense. This is another unique thing that's a lot of handwritten code if you're running this in a notebook or something. But within NiFi for the last at least 5 or 6 years, if not 10. We've been able to support unstructured data, which obviously is huge with AI. So being able to take an archive file, so you have a gzip tar file full of hundreds of XML files, NiFi will download that, pull it apart, get it into the right format, let you extract things, transform them, convert them into different types, whether that data lives or goes to Slack or Discord or Twitter or wherever that needs to be, chunk it up, get it ready, and then being able to add custom Python processing there obviously makes a huge amount of sense. Let's give you an idea how easy this is to write. So if you wanted to write your own, obviously, if you have most of your code in a library, you're going to import that library. This is the boilerplate piece that goes around it. Give it a cool name. Put your library that's dependency. Obviously, there's probably a couple. And then you can start doing the fun stuff. If you have an initialization, you put it there. Otherwise, you put everything in the transform. It's going to get the context of what's going on with this and that input, which we call a flow file. So whatever's coming through the pipeline, I get all of it with all its metadata, and I can operate on that, convert it, change it, and return it. Or maybe I just use it to look at something, pass it along unchanged, and add additional metadata. We call these attributes. So you can have something and say you don't want to change it. Maybe it's an image. I still want that image. I'm going to look at it, do some kind of AI that says what's in the image, put that in the metadata around it, and pass that on to the next guy in the pipeline. Makes that really easy and reusable. Obviously, gets rid of a lot of boilerplate code you might have to do with some other bit of Python or something else. Again, the common thing to do is take some code or libraries you have already, wrap that in that syntax I showed you. There's a little script that can build in and package it up into what's called a nar file, which is basically just like a tar file with some metadata in there. We deploy it, whether that's to NiFi, where just drop it in a directory, or something like OpenFlow. I'll show you how to do that. And then you test it. And what's cool with NiFi, testing is interactive way you build things. And here I could see the different ones I've loaded into an environment and the version. Pretty easy. Again, prepare the code, wrap it in that little bit of extra, make sure it's built, deploy it, start testing. Very easy way to get going. And I've written a couple of these. These are all available in open source for you to try out or to look at and say, okay, yeah, this is, I get an idea how I want to write my own. And some of these are super easy because there's so many great Python libraries out there. We tend to want to use at least Python 3.10, 3.11. Uh, Obviously, there's so many versions of Python, but I'm sure other people always recommend use the latest one that they'll allow you to use. So this is using feed parser and pandas, pretty standard stuff. A little heavyweight, but this one is an example one out there to read RSS, which is a XML style news format, and this one just outputs CSV. Now with NiFi, we already have built-in ability to do this, but I thought this is a nice example, and I gave you an example of an RSS feed from the government, which is a nice one to look at and get that information out of. A little more powerful and unique to NiFi is the ability to grab an image, process that through our flow. So it's not just text files or CSV or JSON or whatever. It is an image. So say I have a picture of a cat, which I have a lot of those. I send this into my processor. It's using a model from Hugging Face. Again, with you know how to set that Python code up pretty simple. But I link to the directory there, and this will caption the image. I add that caption around the image and pass that along for the next step, which can be just storing it, could be pushing it to Slack, could be some other enhancements. Just a really easy way to make an unstructured data pipeline and have that metadata in there. And if I've got enough steps, I may pull that metadata off into its own flow and make that as something that goes into, say, a snowflake table or an iceberg table, or push that into Kafka, Pulsar, MQTT, whatever. Pretty straightforward. And again, image is not changed. We just used it. And then I could use it in the next step. You know, I could use another Hugging Face and use a ResNet 50 to add additional classifications. I'm not copying these images anywhere. It's going along with the flow. And now I've added some more enrichment to it. And then important if you're taking images from people, like I'll grab images from a Slack channel with NiFi. I want to make sure that there's things that are appropriate for whatever, you know, if whether it's corporate or whatever you're doing, I want to get rid of those. Fortunately, there's a couple good libraries out there. This makes a great Python processor. So I detect if there's something wrong with the image, and maybe it either gets immediately directed or sent to something for a human in the loop to validate it, or gets deleted, puts those people on suspension. You know, there's lots of downstream actions you may want to do. NiFi is often used with cybersecurity and other chains like that. So you may be using it to validate data. Well, one kind of data now is images. So let's make sure that they're safe. Um, this could also be related to security, or this could just be fun. I like this one. So grabs your image, again, doesn't get rid of that image. So, third step in that chain of pipeline, look for facial emotions, add them to the attributes, add that to the chain. Again, source code is all in there. Uh, for text data, I can grab things like company name. This is important for me if I want to use that downstream. I could also extract various entities, you know, using natural language. So grab things like organization, people, what have you. Again, depending on what's in your data chain. This one I thought was useful, being able to see and grab wiki data, useful for queries. So I have Slack agents out there help feed this into a prompt to bring out more data. You know, depends what's going on. Address, where are you? Most often, if I'm doing a geo query in Snowflake, I want to have Latin long. This gets me Latin long using the really good library from OpenStreetMaps. This one I'll show you in the demo, so I'll jump to that right after this. This lets you convert GTFS, which is a Google standard on transit data, and lets me convert that into JSON, which is a lot easier to work with. GTFS is a type of protobuf, and protobuf is kind of binary and kind of a pain. So I'm in Snowflake's OpenFlow, which is the way to host NiFi. So if I had code, if I wanted to add a new library, I'd press this button, it gets installed. It takes a little while it's validating it, making sure that the got the right version of Python, and then it's going to install the libraries, test things, put it in its own secure environment, wrapped in NiFi. This is NiFi. This is a flow. This is actual running things. So this flow is running. So if I wanted to add a Python processor, it's the same as if I was running any of the native ones. So since I know mine's in Python, I'm smart. I put the word Python as a tag in my library so I know which ones I have. And you just add it and you could start using it. If you look here, I have a stream running. Up above here is my Python processor. Got a lot of steps in this one. I'm going to start that one running. You could stop things without losing data in NiFi, which is very cool. So for configuration here, I just have a URL to link to. Very simple. I could have some metadata if there's other things needed. I also say what type of GTFS feed, because they do operate a little differently. So they're parsed a little different. They have different things. So I support the three main types, which are trip updates, vehicle positions, and alerts. So you could specify those. As you see, the data ran through there, and it says that it modified it, and we could see the data that came through. Here we had a megabyte of data converted from an MTA endpoint. That's the transit system in New York. So the data coming out here, I can see, I can put it, it's JSON. So I'll format this as JSON. This is now JSON. It was GTFS real-time spec before. And this converted it into JSON. So it's, human viewable and something that's a little easier to process. And this looks no different from this one. This is a native bit of functionality to add extra metadata. Pretty straightforward, but this is the one I added from my own Python code. Again, it has all the features. I could set logging levels. I could schedule it to run. Right now, it runs as soon as you get to it and runs on all the nodes in our cluster. But I could set it to run in just one. I could have it run as multiple concurrent tasks. I could have it run on a cron schedule, which again makes more sense if I know, hey, the data only updated once a minute, only let it run once a minute. And then nothing is ever the end in NiFi until you decide it. So if there's an error, I send it here. I could do some other kind of processing with it. If it's success, I send it to the next step. Here I split out the JSON into smaller ones because there's a lot of different entities and I want to work with them separately. I extract the fields I really care about. There's a lot of junk in some of these files. And then at the end, I merge it together and then I just push it into Snowflake. But you could do a lot of different things. So we got the trip updates, we got service alerts. Again, very straightforward way to be able to add your Python functionality to NiFi and use it in a enterprise manner at streaming. If you have questions, definitely drop them in the chat. This is one of the source codes. It's linked in the slides, which you'll get the slides. You get all the links here so you could go into these different processors to see them out. I put everything is Apache licensed, but pretty straightforward what I'm doing here. I've got some tags to tell you what this does, but this is just using the transformers library from Hugging Face, and that has the blip processor. And it's pretty. There is not a lot for me to do here. The flow file comes in. I load those libraries from Hugging Face. Obviously, they're cached and downloaded once we've run this once. Again, why we want to iteratively test these things as we do them. I get the bytes from that image, convert it as a raw image, send that to my processor, have it decode it. The captions that it gives me back, I return as attributes, and I return that original image, tell you that it succeeded, and add that new attribute. As you can see, pretty straightforward, whether it's text. Here I'm using Spacey and extracting all those different entities, putting them as attributes. You see, it's once you start making a couple, it's really straightforward, whatever you're doing. It's that boilerplate stuff, unless you've got some initialization there. You load your libraries, whatever version. Probably should see if there's a newer version of that one or make that a parameter. So we get that, grab the image, add the label and score, and add those as attributes. Or I can use it as a source of data. So here I'm using the Faker library to give you all the options to add different fields here. So if you want, create your own data from scratch for testing things, you could use the Faker library. There's probably a better way to write that code, but it's pretty straightforward. This was the one we're using today. Remember those three types there? So make sure you know it. Like I said, I like to put Python in there so it knows what it is. So we get our couple of parameters. We get our URL back. We've got the Google Transit libraries to process this. Again, very simple Python code. We get the message back, depending on the type, tells me where I'm getting those messages and, what fields I might want to change, So I get all the different things from this parse protobuf and then return it as a JSON object. Makes it really easy. But here I've actually changed the flow file to be this new content and got rid of the protobuf. Again, that's an option. And I put some things in the attributes. Again, depends on what you want to do with the code. So when I ran this in NiFi, when we are done with this step, the original input in was is been changed. You see, the original data was just the word MTA to tell me what I was doing, and the output is the JSON that we had converted from that protobuf. So we created new output, and NiFi tells you that the content was modified from a little to a large amount of data, and you can see we've added the attributes as well in the details. You can see we added the type in the URL just to have them in there, and you could have added other things. If we had errors, you could see that. But as you can see, it makes it really easy to follow what happened at different steps. And if I wanted to do something different, I could just do that at this step. Say I wanted to put it into S3 bucket. I can add another place to put the output of this, just doing that. Or say I wanted to push this into, say, a snowflake stage. I could just grab this live one and point it somewhere else. Pretty straightforward here. You could change those things on the fly while it's running. So if I had, more data coming in, I literally can just come in here and change this. We did it in the right place. Service alerts, and you can see it's here. And since I didn't write this yet, let me put it back to the original one. But now there's one ready to go to S3. I don't really want it to go to S3. Maybe I'll move all those files into an internal stage in Snowflake so I could maybe run a regular Python batch on that. Depends what makes sense. I don't see any more queries or questions there. So I'll run this up to the end. Maybe we'll go back to the slides. I think there's a couple more left here, and we'll run this down to the end, but we'll try to finish up a minute or so early just to give people time to get to the next talk. I know there's a lot of awesome talks today. Got some friends seeing this in Boston. That must be pretty cool, this hybrid event. Like I mentioned, we get that real time MTA data in, process it, and then be able to move along and do what we need to do there. Pretty straightforward. And this one's pretty cool, especially if you have Linux. This uses the PSUtil library to get all the system metrics. This is good for checking how your server is running within NiFi. Helpful information to have. We mentioned that fake record. Fake record's nice to have for testing things or just to have as a process here. We went through the demos. All these links will be available if you want to look some other things you could do with NiFi, other things you could do with the Python processors, more examples of the Python processors, and a link to the official guide on how to develop them. Because there's a lot of other options that I didn't mention. You could also write things like controllers and other things depending on what you're going to need to do. And some examples using these Python processors. There are a lot of options there. If you think of one you would like to see, definitely drop me a message at either LinkedIn or GitHub or Medium, and I will get back to you. It's been great having this talk here today, and thank you. We'll wrap it up. Unless you want me to go to the end here, we
Yeah,
can do that too.
we have
Whatever's easier.
three more minutes. Why not? If we don't have any questions.
Yeah, I don't see any questions here.
Awesome. It's a great presentation. And then just so that the attendees know, we can continue this conversation on the Zoom channel. I'm sorry, Discord channel or in the lobby. This was great. Thank you so much again, Timothy.
Thank you.